Well, I thought I would weigh in on this issue of the Boleman and Deal frames. I was interested in everybody's take, and I mostly thought you guys came to good conclusions about what it might take to have had a different outcome. But I probably have a slightly different take on which of the frames are the more important frames. So what I've done here is, as you can see, I've highlighted the 4 frames from the Boleman and Deal article, and I just thought that I would talk for a few minutes about what I think was going on there. Oh, and I guess first of all, I'll say this is my kitchen. I thought I would come to you from someplace different for a change. Normally I just sit myself against a wall somewhere, but I thought, okay, a little boring. Okay, anyway, so you are all correct in noting that all of these frames play in here to some extent, right? They do, and there's no doubt about that. But I strongly felt that the main problem here is symbolic. And the reason that I felt that is because 2 things happened at the beginning of this project that I think, and then continued, that I think actually made the biggest difference. The first thing is that the people who were engaged originally and really cared about it, who were on the steering committee, basically all fell off the steering committee for one reason or another. They changed jobs or they moved or whatever. Almost every project that requires change also requires a champion. And the point of the champion is somebody that is respected, somebody that has some authority, somebody that has the ability to pull strings and so forth. And whether or not they have power, they at least have respect. Those somebodies were originally on the steering committee. And as they walked off, the people who were appointed to replace them were not as committed, and consequently they were not going to do the hard work of selling and persevering through the adjustment period of the change. So that was the first thing that happened. The project lost its champions. The second thing that happened was that the project got much bigger than it was envisioned to be early on in the process. All these different organizations and agencies heard about it and wanted to glom on. And that's great at some level, but the people who were running the study really did not have the capacity to get everything done that they needed to do. So it created a situation in which they were not able to do the same kind of groundwork that they would have done if they had a smaller focus. This is why organizations actually do pilot programs, is so that they can test things out and see how they come out. But they had this huge project before they even got started that was much bigger than they could handle, given the size of the research group, which was pretty small. So when I say it was mostly symbolic, they lost their meaning when they lost their champions. The people who were championing this were people who understood the value and were committed to the project in the beginning. And I think that was a large part of the situation. The folks who were left holding the bag were afraid of the community clinging to the past. And with the exception of one area, I can't remember which the name of it was, where the people wanted to retain the grass, and from day one they didn't like it. It seems to me more that the problems with each of these sites were varied, and they weren't always people disliking things. It was more about the staff just kind of pushing back in the face of fear of what the public might think. And that goes to this loss of meaning, loss of purpose, clinging to the past. I will say there was kind of a strong undercurrent, a structural issue, and that has to do with the loss of clarity and stability that also happened when they got overextended and they really didn't have everything that they needed in the way of, why were they doing this? Wasn't the same from one partner to the other, and where should they put their emphasis? They were driven by who had in the end, they were driven by who gave them the most money and so forth. And as you look at the essential strategies, I don't know about creating transition rituals, but I certainly believe that taking the time to find the right individuals to replace the ones who left would have been critical. And up there in the structural, communicating, realigning, renegotiating, all of that could have helped. Now, I'm not saying that there was no political issue, disempowerment, conflict between winners and losers. I wasn't getting that. What I was mostly getting was that there was fear of political backlash, but that's not the same as saying there was political backlash. And it didn't seem like they had anxiety or uncertainty or incompetence around the work they were doing. They had horticulturists, they had researchers, etc. And so I didn't really see this as a human resource issue. It was a human issue. It was a psychological issue. But human resources more goes to competencies and skill sets and having the right people on board that can actually see the work through. And I think they had that. And again, I didn't really think it was political because I think there was some fear, and the clinging to the past was some fear of political stuff, but I didn't really see them having that kind of conflict between winners and losers, as I said, with the exception of that one. It might have been an apartment building or an office building or something where the people didn't want them to take out the grass from the get-go. But the rest of it, there were all different reasons, and I think it more had to do with the project losing its meaning for the people who came in after, or maybe never even having meaning, and just some kind of an assignment they were given, as opposed to the people who really knew what was going on and why they had committed to it in the first place. So that's my thinking on all of this, and I thought I would just record it and tell you instead of writing it up, because it's easier sometimes to just watch something for a few minutes than it is to read through it. So I hope you are all having a great weekend, and I will see you again on the boards on Monday.